Let's pray.
All right.
Everlasting Father, in the precious and mighty name of Jesus, we thank you and we bless your great name for this evening and the opportunity that you're giving us, Lord, to share and to hear from one of us, Sam Mugu, who's just going to be speaking to us about how we can leverage debt for business and even for many other purposes. I pray that this will be insightful for the people who join us and for anyone who even be watching this later as we are recording it. We pray that this will make a difference in somebody's life and it will be a blessing. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Man,
Amen. Thank you.
I'm very glad to have joined you.
Uh-huh. We are
This is a
also
very nice.
very honored to have you here.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about leveraging debt,
Yes.
so that to make it probably work for you to make wealth. The topic was leveraging debt, but I will try to coin it to leveraging debt to build wealth.
Uh,
All right.
that makes sense. Yeah.
So I will share some slides here so that we can go through the training in a few minutes. Then we can ask questions.
Yes.
We are not able to do the slides, but I will be sending the slides to you once we are done with the training
That's in order.
for recording purposes and for the notes purposes. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that we may need to do is to define what a debt is in terms of this topic. We will be very specific to this topic of leveraging debt. So whatever we define or whatever we will say is basically towards leveraging debt. It might not be the contemporary definition of the debt, but I will try and say a debt is a sum of money that is owed or due. Number one,
Yeah.
you're owing somebody some money, that is a debt. Number two, it is a feeling of gratitude. Many are the times that we say, I owe you one. So you
Yes.
feel that you have that gratitude for a service that was rendered or a favor that you were given, and you feel that you're indebted to repay in a kind way. So
Yeah.
that's a debt. The
Yes.
other, the other definition that I will say, number three, is an obligation that you have to pay, an obligation that is required of you to pay, whether it is taxes, whether it is payee, whether it is rent, an obligation of any kind. As long as it is something that you are owing, it is an obligation that you have to do. That is also a debt. So,
Yeah.
for our purposes, we will go with those three definitions: money that you owe, and a gratitude or a favor that you feel indebted to, or an obligation. And we will lean more to the definition number one, the money
Yes.
that you owe or that is due. Types of debts that we have around. And number one is the inefficient debts. I don't know how many types of debts that we have, Sam and Julius. Is Julius still around?
Yes, he is.
So I don't know how many types of debts that we know, but I have divided debts in two types. Number one is the inefficient debts, or what we can call bad debts. But I
Yeah.
don't want to say there is anything like bad debt. I will say debts can be efficient or inefficient. So those are the two types of debts that I will be talking about. And an inefficient debt is
Yeah.
that debt that you have, you bought something with it. You got money from somewhere, or you got a favor from somewhere.
Yeah.
You used that money to buy an asset or anything that is in one depreciating in value, or anything that is not adding value to yours, to your life. If you take a debt and you buy a car, the reality is in 5 years that car will have depreciated in value, and that's what we call that debt is inefficient. Not unless that car will be used for purposes of giving you more money, in that case that is not an inefficient debt. If you take a debt and you decide to take your family to Malindi or Dubai, that is a very inefficient debt. So we're talking about inefficiency of debts because it is not adding to your life. It is not adding any value to you. If you come, it is not a factor of production. In other words,
yeah,
that is one type. This kind of a debt, all right, the inefficient debt is actually more likely to reduce your wealth.
Yeah.
Because one, you will be paying interest, you have paid fees, you will have used time, but you are not gaining anything out of that debt. That is number one. Number two, any inefficient debt is very risky, extremely risky. So it is 100% risk because you're taking money, you are thinking that you will repay it, but you have used it for something that will never ever be productive. So this debt, kind of a debt, is very risky.
Yeah.
Number two is where now we will dwell more, is the type number two is efficient debts. This kind of a debt is used to purchase an asset. And I'm saying asset. When I say asset, we don't have to think about a physical, tangible thing. You can buy stock. Stock is still an asset for business. You can buy an employee with this kind of debt. An employee is an asset for the business or for your life. You can buy a factor of production like a laptop. Probably you do online business. You can buy a camera. You can buy anything, a service that is an asset for your business. All right.
Yes.
If today I came to you and I told you I need you to train my employees, I am buying, even if I took a loan for that, I am buying an asset because the training itself for the employee will be an asset for my company to gain more. So an efficient debt is used to purchase assets that have potential to grow in value. So not only an asset, because you can buy a jembe which is outdated or a wheelbarrow right now, which is kind of outdated, but that asset must have the potential to grow in value, or at least generate some income that can be used to pay back the debt. So that is the kind of debt that we'll be dwelling on for this training or for this
discussion.
talk.
Yeah.
And it is this kind of a debt, the efficient debt, that can really build your value. It can really build your wealth over a long time. The other problem that we have with Kenyan mind is that they have this mentality that once I buy a car, I will put it in Uber, and within 1 year, it will have repaid itself. That mentality, sometimes it doesn't build any wealth.
Yes.
So you have to think things in terms of long term. Most of the businesses in Kenya, they have a lifetime period of the owner. The exact lifetime of the owner is the exact lifetime of the business. Most of the businesses do not outlive us. And that is because we take debts, we take assets, we purchase assets, we model our businesses according to the needs of the owner, that particular need of the owner. Leo, if someone you need to buy a house, you will model your business towards building a house. You are not thinking 30 years to come, will I have this business? Will this business outlive us? But a good asset must outlive. A good debt must buy an asset that will outlive the owner of the business.
Awesome.
All right, or the owner of the debt. So if you take a loan that will service you, and after the end of the loan, then you die, then it has not served you. And most of the people have done that. Wanachukua loan, they pay school fees, they are adding value to the children, but after that child gets school, the learning, what else? So we must take debt. We must think of efficient borrowing, efficiency, borrowing so that we can invest in the future. All right. So a good debt, what is this kind of efficient debt? What are we talking about when we say this efficient debt? What can it help a borrower to do? Number one, it helps a borrower to accomplish an objective. All right.
Yes.
So you have an objective already. A good debt or an efficient debt must help you to accomplish something. You have a long-term goal.
Yeah.
Probably you have a long-term goal of building a flat, a house for yourself, probably for stocking your business or modeling your business from a small business to a company. So that kind of objective, that is why you have to take a debt. You don't take debt because there is an emergency. And that is the reality in Kenya. Most of the debts right now are emergency debts. Tala, Branch, Mshwari, Fuliza, all of those are emergency debts. They have zero objective.
Yes.
Zero objective.
But to solve the present emergency.
Yes, just to solve the present problem. After hiyo imesolviwa, debt inaanza kupile. Lakini there is no objectivity in terms of long term. Number two, your debt can help you avoid a bad outcome. An efficient debt can help you avoid a bad outcome. What are we talking about? For example, a company right now, so many companies were affected by Corona. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the government is expecting taxes. If you do not do the taxes, your company is in jeopardy. You accrue penalties, and what happens? Sometimes companies must maintain their employees, and probably you don't have the money currently. So sometimes the debt is taken for you to avoid a bad outcome. For example, if you do not have the salaries for the employees for 1 year, probably. Yeah. And you see there is, like now the Corona will affect, and you don't want to lose an employee because you know an employee is actually the golden goose for the golden eggs. Without the employees, some companies will be shut down. For such bad outcomes, you avoid by taking a small debt, and then it becomes efficient. You keep the employee, you keep your machinery working. Probably you pay taxes and rent here and there, and then your business is up to date again. All right?
Yes.
But we have to agree on some few issues here. Before you take this debt, Samuel and Julius, what exactly do you consider? Wewe ukienda kabla ujaze hiyo Mshwari ama Fuliza, what exactly goes to your mind? What exactly do you consider? What are the factors that you consider so that you can take that debt? And I can assure you, most of the Kenyans wanachukwanga pesa sababu imejipatia iko.
It's available.
Yeah, most of the Kenyans will take money because it is available, and I think that is the biggest.
The banker looks at your statement and they think you can afford a loan of 500,000, so they approach you, and you also just agree.
Exactly. Anakuambia nitakupatia 400. So pesa ikiingia kwa account, that's when you start thinking what to do with the money. We have to look at what are the steps that we take. Before you take a loan, what do you need to do so that you have an efficient debt? Number one, the most critical thing is you have to check your debt tolerance. Your debt tolerance.
Yes.
Kama vile saa hii tunadungwa vaccine ya kupigana na corona. You have to check if you have the enough immunity to make sure that the debt is paid without detrimentally affecting you. Yes. Some of the people have finished debts and then they died because they were so much stressed. Some of the people got into loans, they got depressed, wakafutwa kazi because they couldn't work anymore. So you have to check your debt tolerance. And when we say your debt tolerance, we are actually saying check your affordability, capacity to afford. so that you don't bite what you cannot chew.
Yes.
And to check your debt tolerance, sio ile tunaambiangwa na the banker, nipatie payslip nikuangalilie unaweza pata ngapi.
That is just one factor among many.
Exactly. You see, payslip does not talk about your rent. Payslip will never talk about your school fees. Payslip will never talk about your wife's hairdressing and dressing code and shoes and all that. Payslip will never dictate how much you eat and how much you use for transport.
Yes.
It will never dictate so many other how much you pay your mom. Some of us, we have to send money home.
Yes.
So payslip does not talk about all
that.
Does
not tell the whole story.
Exactly. So it is only the individual who knows the capacity, up to what capacity. It is only the individual who can tell how much I can pay. The reality in Kenya is the bank tells you how much you can pay, and it is dangerous. It is the most dangerous thing in this world. When
because
someone else,
for them, all they care about is to grow their loan book.
Exactly. That is what they care about. For you, what you should care about is your future and building wealth out of the money that you will get. Kumbuka, I always tell my clients that a debt can never be erased, a debt can never be forgiven, a debt can never be forgotten. Can never be erased. The only way out of a debt is to pay it. So you must check your affordability. And I want to dwell there, kidogo, Mr. Samuel and Julius, about the affordability. How do you assess your debt tolerance? How do you check your affordability? Number one, you have to know how much you can pay per month as an installment. Check how much you can pay as an installment. And I don't want to say per month, because some of the loans are not, the cycles are not per month. Most of the loans in Kenya are paid monthly, but some of the loans are not, the cycles are not monthly. So I will say this, check your affordable installment per the repayment cycle. Kama ni 30 days, una check what is your income for that 30 days and what is your expenses for those 30 days. Then whatever is surplus is what we can afford for an installment. You get that?
Yes.
So we don't get installments based on the money that comes to the account or whatever is on the payslip. The installment is gauged purely on the repayment cycle, how much you get, how much you spend, and after spending everything, after deducting all your expenses, what is surplus? And I can assure you, most of the Kenyans hawafanyangi hiyo. Wao wanaonanga, that of my salary ni 20,000, mi naweza afford 20,000. In reality, they cannot. In reality, they will not be able to afford that much.
Yes.
So you have to check the affordability installment, the installment affordability. So you check the source of the amount per the repayment cycle. Then you check the expenses and the expenditures, and then you know your disposable income. Your disposable income, that you now say, kama ninabakisha 5,000, then I cannot take a loan which I will be paying more than 5,000. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble. All right. Number two, you have to know, after I take this loan, what is my expected income from this loan?
Yes.
You have to know that. You have to calculate that immediately. And again, you are calculating that income based on the repayment cycle. For example, if I'm given 100,000 and I put it in my business, how much do I get from the goods that I buy at 100,000? Ikienda nikibuy stock ya 100,000, number one, nitapata pesa ngapi from that stock? Number two, itachukua muda gani? Because kuna wale watu wanajuanga profitability, nikichukua 100,000 nitanunua kitu alafu itanipatia 50,000. Lakini hiyo 50,000 inakaa miezi mbili kabla ingie.
Yes.
I will give you an example. For example, someone there is this business in ambayo inaitangwa salvage vehicles. So many people have gone down in that business. Do you know why? Yeye ameambiwa ukinunua gari 200 unaipip na 200 itakupatia 800. So yeye anaangalia atapata 400 from the 400.
Yes.
Ndio? Lakini haangalii kabla niuze hii gari, what amount of time will I take?
What's the process?
You get it? The process angali. So unapata loan ina defaultiwa 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months kabla uze gari. By that time amekuwa na bad debt, interest imeongezeka, so many other penalties have gone into that. Some of them unakumbuka pesa zingine wanachukua kwa Shairo because si ni biashara inajipa haraka haraka.
God.
So by the end of it security imeshauzwa. Kama alikuwa amepeana labda plot nyingine iko na huko kwao Geshagi, title inaanza sasa, wanaanza court cases. It becomes even more expensive. So how much you get from the money that you borrow is not the issue, but the time also is a very strong issue. Get to know the profit that you are getting and the amount. But 3, so we have said you check the affordability, you check the expected amount, income, or the expected savings that you will get. Unajua kuna loan kama saa hii nikilipa taxes, how much will I save? Hakuna kitu nimepata from that money. Lakini nimesave penalty ya 100,000 ambayo KRA ingenikujia. So it depends on the amount that I am saving from that loan. Number 3, you have to know when to borrow and why to borrow. When is not the only thing that you should check. You have to check when to borrow and why to borrow. And I will tell you this, Sam.
Yes.
So many people borrow when the bank approaches them.
Yes.
That is for them. That is
it's available. That is a qualification.
So when to borrow is a very crucial thing. All right. And I will tell you this: the best time to borrow money is the time when the opportunity for profit, or when the opportunity from borrowed money is very powerful. At that level, when you see that an opportunity for, if I get this money, there is an opportunity for profit. That is the most convenient time for borrowing. Or even, number 1, that is it. And then, or when the borrowing is very low. When the borrowing percentages, the borrowing cost.
The interest.
And let me tell you here. No. It's your interest.
Okay.
It's your interest, the borrowing cost. The loan comes with so many other costs, not just interest. Sahi Samuel naweza kuambia nitakupatia loan ya 1%.
This is why we are listening
but
to you.
But the fees, yes. But the fees around that loan is another 15%.
Oh God.
Ninakwambia insurance, ninakwambia ledger fees, ninakwambia standing orders, ninakwambia about so many other things. So the borrowing cost must be low, and then the profitability, the opportunity for profit should be very high. That is the time to borrow. Okay? And then why to borrow? Let me tell you, most of the people borrow without a budget. I will say this: if you need to make your debts efficient, if you need to make your debts meaningful, then you have to have a budget. That is the first thing you must prepare before you go to borrowing. Yes. Why are you borrowing? All right. Make a budget and then adhere to that budget strictly. So number 4, you have to calculate the risk. What is at stake?
Yes.
Before you even go to borrow, what is at stake? What are you losing in case of anything? In case the deal goes haywire, in case of the investment goes haywire, what are you losing? Hao watu wanakuitisha nini as security? What is at stake? Is it your life? Is it your land? Is it your car? You have to check what is at stake. All right?
Yes.
And in case that investment does not make any sense, are you able to cover with maybe some collaterals? Ambazo hazitakuumiza. Okay? So you have to check your collateral base. Okay?
Yes.
The foundation for collaterals must be very, very powerful. And number 5, before you take a loan, you must know your fallback plan. Ulienda ukadanganywa na Maasai kwamba ukilima ngano itakupatia milioni 1, umechukua loan. In case mvua ikose, what is your fallback plan?
Ama mvua inyeshe mingi sana.
Yes. What is your fallback?
Paka iharibu ngano.
Exactly. I will tell you of my experience in 2017. Nililima nyanya eka 15.
Hey.
Alafu wakati nyanya imetoa maua vizuri, maji ikaisha. Kiangazi ikaingia. That was the end of farming nyanya. So you have to know what is your fallback plan. Kama ningekuwa nimechukua loan kwa hiyo nyanya, you must write your plan A, plan B, and plan C.
Yes.
All right? And you have to know if pesa unachukua, can it be restructured? Because most of the people take a loan that is strictly lazima ilipwe on that time. Ukikosa, can it be restructured? Let us go to the other section, using the power of good debt. Using the power of, how can we use the debt to make something sensible out of it? I will begin by saying this. There are so many ways you can get a debt. And according to the biggest investors in this world, most of the investors have always advocated for something we call OPM. OPM is other people's money.
Yes.
That is the cheapest debt you can have for your business. I will give you an example. Any bank in Kenya does not use its own money. Nyinyi ndio mnapelekanga pesa kwa bank. They lend to other people, they lend to people, wanabaki na interest, na nyinyi mnabaki na nini? Mnabaki na pesa yenu, na mnatolewa pesa yenu mki-withdraw. So
naleja fees.
Exactly. The banks use what we call other people's money. I will give you another example. You see these building societies, akina Gakuyo, akina Simple Homes, akina Urithi. What they do is, wanaendaga wanaambia mwenye shamba, tutakatakata hii shamba, alafu tutauza, pesa ikiingia ndio tunakulipa. Ikiingia tunakulipa. So they use your money and someone else's land.
Yes, someone else's asset.
Yes. So they only work with what we call goodwill and reputation. So other people's money is the best debt you can get in the world. That's why kuna kuanga na hizi crowdfunding. Unasikia mtu anasema tunachangisha for something. Harambe came from the ideology of other people's money, the OPM. So if you need to use the best debt, you must, before you go to a bank, can you check, can I use other people? Is there a strategy that I can create to use other people's money? If that strategy does not exist, what else what is the alternative? Before I take any loan that has interest, what are the alternatives? So number 1, you have to consider the OPM. The number 2, you have to consider what we call lump sums. Wamama have used this thing for over how many years. The chama money, they consolidate money together, then wanapatia mtu moja. Hiyo pesa is a lump sum. And that is what those mothers, by the way, let me tell you, most of the best good cars, good looking cars, they are being driven by women right now.
True.
Why? they have mastered the art of lump sums. Wanachangisha by December wanagawana hiyo pesa. So unapata mama akona 100,000 lump sum. And that is the money they are using to catapult their businesses. They use that like a debt. It is almost like a debt. Something that they have at table banking. Unapata wanawekelea pesa kwa meza and then wanapea mtu mmoja kama loan. That loan is very cheap. Anaambiwa atarudisha na 1,000. So by the end of the day, those lump sums can be the best, can be very efficient debts. Sisi kama wanabiashara, saa zingine unapatanga umepewa bonus. Maybe wewe uko na shop, umeuza vitu ya Unilever sana. So by the end of the year, wanakuja wanakupatia bonus ya vitu, wanakupatia at half price. That is a bonus, that is a lump sum. We should use that as a debt to catapult our businesses. So that is number 2. Number 3, you can borrow from your savings. You can always borrow from your savings. Most of Kenyans don't save. Lakini if you can save, we are told you should be saving 20% of what your earnings, whatever you want. You have not been told a certain amount. You have been told a certain percentage, 20%. So kama una earn 100 shillings, it is your obligation to save about 20 shillings. And the other thing, so you can use your savings. You can make your savings a debt. The other thing is that you can also do something that we call reduction of your living expenses. Lifestyle audits.
Yes.
Lazima ujifanyie lifestyle. Before you go to borrow a loan, do your lifestyle audit.
Where is the money going to?
Where is the money? Where is your money? Why do you need even the loan? Where is your money? You can do a lifestyle audit. All right? So we can always do such things. After you have done that, Mr. Samuel, that is when you go to a bank. You have reduced your lifestyle expenditures. You have assessed your affordability. You have known what you are doing, you're going to do with the money, and then you can go to the bank. Once you get that money, hiyo wakati ya kujirudishia shukrani ama kuambia mwili pole. You must be very disciplined.
Yes.
To use the money for the purpose that is intended. Nilikuwa naambia mtu mwingine, loan, kwenda kukikufiwa, saa hii leo mtu amekufa na umepata loan leo, don't dare. Don't dare. Kama una pesa, usitumie loan.
Kauka tu kama wengine.
Yes. So you have to be very disciplined. If you follow those small steps, I am very sure the debt will be meaningful. After you take the debt, you are disciplined, you have invested it. Treat that as Patrick ananiambia ati kuambia mwili pole ni lazima. Lakini hiyo ishindwe. We must be disciplined to use the money for the purpose that was intended for. So we build wealth from that. And I want to say this categorically, that a debt must be used for something that will outlive the debt. Sio ya kutumia kufanya kakitu ka project ambayo inaenda ikiisha. Please let us think long term. You take 500,000, build a house, build a business, go buy a land. All right?
Yes.
Mimi na my wife, we always have one theory. Tukipata 1,100, ikipita 1,100, hiyo pesa itumikange kwa hii nyumba. Ikiingia tu 100 imeshikana hivi, hiyo pesa haiwezi tumiwa hata kama hakuna unga. Hiyo wakati, hiyo siku tutalala njaa.
It does not land in the house.
It does not land in the house. We must use that 100,000 to make more money that will bring us food.
Wow. Awesome.
That should be the policy for everyone. I want to take some few questions from the panel, from the people, and then we can discuss more.
Correct. So thank you so much, Sam, for sharing those very heavy nuggets of wisdom with us concerning leveraging debt for wealth creation. I am sure that everybody who's been here has learned some very critical lessons which we'll be able to apply in our lives as we go along. So as has been said, we open this up for questions and reactions. So if you have a question, you can unmute your microphone and ask if you have something you'd like to say, because there is a few of us here. Let's do the needful. Let's ask our questions. I probably have one or two questions myself, but I will ask them as we continue. So, Julius, is there a question? I can see your thumbs up or a reaction. It's something which for me is very critical for you to mention before you go. How does crystal gold help businesses when it comes to credit? Because somebody will be watching this later and they are wondering, who is this guy and what does he do? So for the avoidance of doubt, Sam Mugu is the managing director of Crystal Gold, and he'll tell us a bit about Crystal Gold and what they do for small businesses.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Sena. At Crystal Gold, we have 4 things that we do, or some 4 or 5 things. Number 1, we deal with all small businesses, every trader in town, every trader. Tunasema all SMEs, wale wadogo, kutoka mtu ambaye ana trade na stock ya 5,000 hadi mtu ana trade na stock ya 1,500. We deal with all that, all traders in town, in the urban centers. Then we have divided those traders in 2 categories, agricultural and non-agricultural.
Okay.
So for non-agricultural, what we do is just we give them the money, they go trade as loans. We give them the loans, small loans. Our loan starts at 10,000 all the way to 1,000,000 shillings. So we give them small money, they go trade, and then they return the money with an interest. We charge 10%. Hiyo sio mingi sana. It is within the range of CBK, what the CBK has recommended. So we give them small money, they return. Then we have this category of the agricultural, and that is where we are building our portfolio. So what we do for agricultural traders, we have 2 things. I did agriculture, and I've come to realize, for you to help a farmer, hawezi saidia mtu ako West Pokot, mwingine ako Nyandarua, mwingine ako Kirinyaga, mwingine ako Taita. You may not reach to all these people. So what I did, I developed a product where we link up the people who are bringing those things, hizo vitu, the produce, wale ambao wanaletanga hizo produce Marikiti na Githurai na Kangemi. So what we have done, tumewakusanya hao. Now all those agribusiness traders, how ndio tuna fund. What they do, they have to bring a list of their farmers. Lazima mtu alete list ya unachukulia nani nini. So they bring the list of their farmers so that we assess the impact that we have in this country. So they bring the list of the farmers and then they tell us, huyu nitamchukulia 50 bags of potatoes. Huyu mwingine nitamchukulia 20 bags of potatoes. Huyu mwingine nitamchukulia 10 bags of potatoes. Huyu mwingine nitamchukulia gunia 2. So tunagawanyisha hiyo pesa. Si anataka loan ya 100,000. Lakini we want the impact to go to the farmers. Kazi yake sio pesa, kazi yake ni nini? Ni kuchukua waru, si ndio?
Yes.
So he send the money to the farmers, they come with the goods, they repay the loans. So in that way, we have created much bigger impact in Kenya.
Yeah.
Through the traders. So we use the traders as a channel to impact the farmers. We are building a portfolio because for the last 3 years we have been doing that. Now we are building a portfolio to help those number one, the women. Mumina anajua kwamba for me, I am pro women. So we are building a portfolio to know how do we help the women, because what we have come to realize that women do not have any say when it comes to land. Mzee akisema tunalima viazi ni viazi, mwanamke hana chake. So we have developed a product to help the women and the youth. And we have said women and youth, they only access the homestead. So we have developed a poultry product ambayo it will be launched in the next 1 year. So once that happens, watakuwa wanalisha kuku, then we will be connecting them with the poultry traders in town, and we will be using the same model. Nawalipa kuku, huyo mtu anaenda anachukua kuku anakuja anauza. So that is the model, that is what we do for farmers and for the traders. We have no product for employees for now. Wale ambao wako salaried kama Mumina,
Paul.
Kama Paul, kama uko salaried, unfortunately, we don't have a product for you for now. But we are trying to link up with certain institutions so that we can link the services so that we do that. That will not come soon. Maybe it's a project for by 2025. Our 2030 vision, iko ndani watu ya employee, but for now we don't have any employee product.
Wow.
Patrick na Paul, poleni.
Wafanye biashara, walime.
Kama hawataki kufanya biashara.
That's on a light note. Thank you so much, Sam, for making the time to be here and for sharing your wisdom with us. Definitely, I'm looking forward to having another conversation with you in the future when you've rolled out all these other things that you're talking about, and I'm sure people will find it helpful and insightful. So for tonight, I want us to bring it to a close at that point. Just before we go, I must say that in the next 4 weeks, we are hosting a summit. It's called Crossroads Virtual Summit. It's tailored for young people. I heard Sam mention that he's taking care of women and young people. Me, I am very focused with everything I do at Optimize Institute is strongly geared towards young people. So we are doing this summit, and the focus is on helping young people identify opportunities in business, opportunities in academia, opportunities to utilize their talent as a way and a means of earning a living for themselves and making a difference in their community. In the same summit, we're going to be talking about the key life and employability skills that people need to have in order to fit in well in this present marketplace, whether as employees or as entrepreneurs. So I want to invite every young person who will get to hear this later through our recording. I want to charge those of us who are here, if you have young people between 17 to 25 years, just encourage them to sign up for this particular summit. Inquiries can be sent to my number +254 725 832 477. And you can also check all our social handles, anything Optimize Institute, you will find all that information there. So I want to thank all of us and to appreciate our being here tonight. And I want to bring this to a close, and I will ask Mumina to make that concluding